I guess I kept all of you long enough in suspense. So, yes, here it is, the RCA 8PT-7032T. Gosh, what a long name. Anyway, this is one of RCA's, you could say, little miracle devices they built in the 50s. And considering that they built a so-called portable TV with only tube technology, well, you could say this is indeed a little jewel of electronics. Now, as you may have guessed, I obviously did some reading on it first, because even though it is small and relatively compact, it's so compact, in fact, that all the technology is really crammed into a tiny little space, and that's going to make it doubly hard for me to restore. You could say I'm a little bit of a masochist to choose something like this to restore, because whenever I encounter old tube technology which has been miniaturized to the extreme, well, I experience it as a little bit of a pain to restore it, because first of all, you should be aware that because everything is crammed in such a tight space, you have to, as they say, dress the electronics in a specific way, yeah, without messing up the wiring or anything like that, or the positioning of the electronic parts, because well, pushing a specific part left or right or up or down, specifically wires, can cause a lot of trouble, specifically in high frequency equipment, of which this TV is of course full of. Now, okay, what are the facts? What do I know up to this point? Well, the TV is relatively complete, aside from one or perhaps two knobs under here. It looks relatively complete. Yeah, I don't think this knob right here is original. Okay, in fact, I'm quite certain it isn't. And there's a knob missing here. Okay, what more can I tell you? Well, if you take a good look at the back of the set, you see these two screws, and these two screws combined with a screw on top under the grip, so over there, and by the way, there is another one over there, and there is one more in here, okay, right here. There are also a few screws at the bottom. Now, these screws these two screws hold the back of the set to the chassis. Now, you'll notice that the lacquer, the paint around the screws, is quite damaged, which seems to suggest to me that this set has been opened at one time or another in the past, which of course is not so good news for me, because it means somebody has worked on it already. before me. Okay, let's screw these holding screws out. These are used whenever you set the TV into its little foot. The foot is over there on the ground, but we don't need it to restore the TV, obviously. So I'm going to unmount those screws because they are going to be in the way anyway. So there you go. Okay. I'll prepare a little parts bag in a moment to put them safely away. Okay, so yeah, well, what else? Well, let me turn the TV on its side and I'll show you what I mean by the fact that this TV has been visited, quote unquote, in the past already. If you look at the bottom of the set, you'll notice that normally there would be a screw here, one here, and another one there. And those screws are gone. Yeah, there are no screws left there, which is kind of a pain, because that means I'll have to go hunt for screws that fit. And since this is imperial measures, okay, so inches and tenths of inches and you name it, European style screws won't work. And that's really a bother for me. But okay, well, it is what it is. Now, obviously there's also oxidation, a little bit of rust here and there, and frankly, when I look at the bottom of the TV, it doesn't really look that well painted either. Now, it could be that it was done that way in the factory, and since maybe they reasoned that since no one is going to look at the bottom of the TV set, they shouldn't do it to such a high standard as the rest of the cabinet. But still, it's a little bit disquieting. It could suggest that, that somebody already attempted to restore, quote unquote, the TV set. Anyway, so what am I going to do? Well, aside for a few missing parts and a few missing screws and all that, the set looks relatively complete. So what I propose to do is to start by unmounting the chassis, so to take it out of the cabinet. And that requires me loosening up a few screws. So let's just do that first. Okay, hang on in there with me, because now it's getting a bit complicated. Okay, first of all, I should have noticed that there were two screws missing on the sides of the knob enclosure. Okay, there are supposed to be two screws down there, one there and one there, but those are gone as well. Oh dear. Okay, so anyway, to remove the case, you do not need apparently to disassemble the antenna. First I thought I would have to, but no, it doesn't look like it. Okay, next what you need to do is, when you undid the three screws, well, I only had to undo one, obviously, you can lift up this box. Okay, here it goes. There you go. Okay, by the way, I undid all the screws on the outside, just like it is described in the service manual. Okay, the next thing I need to do now, let me see. So I removed the knobs. I dismounted, or I unmounted rather, the carrying handle. Remove the plate to no. Okay, slide the chassis assembly, which includes the front frame and kinescope, out of the receiver cabinet. The AC interlock will automatically disengage as the chassis is removed. Okay, so what I think I should do now is, first of all, mount the camera on its stand, which is what I'm going to do now, because I'll need both my hands to do what I need to do now. So, having removed all the screws from the TV set and so forth, and from the knob case, what I need to do now is upend the TV on its front, okay, like this, carefully, and I can hear a few loose screws rattling inside. That's not so good. Okay, here we go, and I should simply lift the cover up like, well, like I'm doing right now. Hang on. Something is catching the case, and I don't know what it is. That's hang on. This is a moment where I should not hurry things, but do it calmly and slowly. Okay, just give me a moment and I'll be right back with you guys. The reason why I couldn't pull off the chassis from, or rather the cabinet from the chassis, was actually my doing. Because you see, when I removed the two screws at the back, right there, those two screw holes you see there, yeah, those two screws are actually used to keep the AC interlock in place, you see, like that. And I had released the two screws. My mistake. So I should not have done that. So that's a warning for anyone trying to disassemble the case of the 8PT. Okay, anyway, so I found out the hard way that had I not unmounted the screws of the interlock, I would not nearly have had such a hard time opening the case. But okay, I did, so whatever. Anyway, so here are the insides of the 8PT revealed in all its glory. And when I unmounted it, you know, when I disassembled it rather, a lot of crud fell out, amongst which tiny little pieces of, well, what I can only qualify as glass, and that has me a little bit worried. because I really have no idea where these little pieces of glass could be coming from, unless it was, of course, from the protective glass on front of the CRT, or some tube. So that has me a little bit worried, frankly, but okay, let's not panic. Anyway, so this is the rear of the 8PT with all the tubes in place. Obviously the tubes have moved a bit, which is really annoying, but okay, that's inevitable in a portable TV. And well, this is a look inside the chassis, and right away I'm sure you will all agree with me, this looks well, moderately hellish to repair. It's a tiny chassis, and it's crammed full with components. Oh dear. Okay, so the high voltage part. So here you see the high voltage tubes, rectifier, the damper tube, the high voltage cage, miniature little thing, and it's quite loose. Well, that too has me a little bit worried, because like I said, it looks like somebody did some work to it before I opened it up, and that has me worried, not a little bit, because it means I don't know what I'm going to find inside. Okay, let me put it on its side like this. Right. Okay, well, you can see that the chassis is built out of rails like this one here. You see another one over here, and it has a sort of a hinge mechanism, you can tell here, you see. So in fact you can, as it were, split the chassis open to work on it. Okay, well, there are quite a few parts missing. There's a clips missing from the speaker cover. I can just about see the speaker inside, but okay, hang on. Let me see how to open this up. Okay, you just push on these clips or pull on them with a pair of pliers like this. Okay, there you go, and that's the speaker. Okay, again that sickly sweet smell, which is so typical for old electronics. Okay, so this is the cover of the speaker. Okay, mind you, I also am still short of a couple of screws which hold down the interlock connector for the AC. So that's a bit annoying, to say the least. So I'll have to go look for that as well. A lot of dust, really a lot of dust, and dust bunnies inside. That too seems to suggest that it's a high-hour TV set, so it must have been used quite a bit. or it must have been stored in a very, very dusty place. I wouldn't be astonished if this had been stored somewhere in some attic or so. I don't think it was stored in a very damp place, because I see, relatively speaking, very little corrosion and very little rust. Okay, there's some cadmium corrosion. You can tell by that greenish yellow color here. So there is some cadmium corrosion, but aside from that, well, it looks okay. These are apparently, I would say, doorknob capacitors, perhaps. Yeah, it could be doorknob capacitors for the high voltage, possibly. I don't know. Well, obviously, what I'll have to do next is to have a very close look at the schematic and see how it is all connected up. So what I'll probably do next is clean out the chassis a bit, release the front bezel with the safety glass from the TV set. It's held in place at the four corners with Phillips screws, like here, okay, and the CRT itself is attached to the chassis via this metal band which runs all around it. So I'm not afraid of releasing the front bezel, actually, since the CRT is held in place by this metal band. So, okay, the next mission is cleaning it all up a bit of the worst dust and crud, and then we'll try to open up the chassis like they describe in the manual and have a closer look at the electronic part. Okay, so before I finish this video, there's one more thing I suppose we should do, and that is to test the CRT. I don't know if my Sencore 133 can test this kind of CRT, but if not, well, then at least I can check the filament with my multimeter. So let's just do that. I gently pulled away the CRT connector from the base. Now the base is not actually, well, is a little bit loose. At least it wobbles a little bit, which, well, is alarming in a sense, but okay, I guess it doesn't automatically mean that the picture tube is bad. Still, this is something I will probably need to look at. Right, so I looked it up in my CRT tester, and what do you know, I do have an 8DP4 listed in my booklet to set my CRT tester. So that's exactly what I did. The grid bias should be anywhere, if I read this correctly, between 17 and 46, where I set it on 30, which is somewhere in between. And the filament should be 6 volts. Now I set it on 1 volt, and I'm going to increase it slowly, you know, not just so not to accidentally burn the filament. Also, I set the grid 2 voltage to 200 as prescribed. Okay, so it says G2 200, which is what I did. Okay, so it's set at 200. Right, well, okay, so the picture tube is, well, it's an RCA, so I guess it is the original one. Let me see. Okay, hang on, I need to put away the CRT loom out of the way because it's really bothering me. Right. So I can't actually find any markings on the CRT which positively identifies it as an 8DP4, but I guess there's no harm in going along with what the service manual says. So okay, let's assume this is indeed an 8DP4. Well, then I need to attach this connector here. Okay, hang on. I don't do this too often, so I need to take my time to do it correctly. The key of the CRT is right here, so let's make it coincide with this. There you go. Okay. Well, right now, hang on, I need to connect it up to the tester like that. Okay, well, we're all set to go.
Bristol Zoo had its very own superstar ape.
Here we go. The line needs to be adjusted a little bit. Okay. So first we check for shorts. Now, if any shorts exist, these two lights should light up. Okay. So well, let's see. Okay, I'm on shorts. No shorts. Okay, let's see if the filament glows. Well, it's kind of hard to tell. Well, mind you, we're still at only 1 volt. So let me put it up to 2 volts and see. I don't see anything yet. Okay. We're at 3 volts now. I still don't see anything. 4 volts. 5 volts. Okay. Let's temporarily halt at 5 volts and let's see what emissions does. Okay. Okay, well, this isn't too good.
Alfred was the biggest and longest lived gorilla in Britain, and visitors felt a sense of connection to him that only a great...
It isn't moving a lot. Okay, let's push the voltage up to 6 volts. There you go. Okay, I can see the glow of the filament. And I think if you look inside the tube, but it's very, very weak, I think you can see it glow over there. Okay, so okay, I can see filament glow, so that's a good sign. But how are emissions? Oh dear. Well, emissions are, well, no shorts but no emissions. No shorts but no emissions. Oh dear. Okay, let's see. Grid check. Nothing. Now, this is weird. Okay, because
just like then, he endured the burdens of the Second World War.
Okay, hang on. Could be that the connector is simply badly connected.
Money was tight, and no one wanted dangerous animals escaping from their enclosures.
Okay, well, I'm not getting much. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the CRT sit with the voltage on it, on the filament, and we're going to leave it to cook for, say, 15 minutes or so, and then check back. Well, we're 15 minutes later, and emissions haven't changed much. So I guess I'm going to let the CRT burn on for, say, maybe half an hour more. But at this stage I'm really not very enthusiastic about the state of the CRT. Well, it doesn't seem to do much. In fact, it doesn't seem to do anything at all. So, okay, no panic. We're going to leave it on for, say, half an hour longer, and then see what happens. Well, we're a half hour later, and emissions are still as good as zero. Now, whether that means that there are absolutely no emissions anymore from the cathode, or whether the tube is actually dead, in other words, hasn't survived the trip, which is possible. I guess we'll never know. Now, the fact that the filament glows. Hang on. Is it still glowing? Well, the filament isn't even glowing anymore. I think. Let me see. Oh no, okay, the filament is glowing. Yeah, the filament is glowing, but emissions are well, non-existent actually. Maybe there's a little bit of emissions left in the tube, but really it's negligible. So what I could try, of course, is a rejuvenation, although I've never done that with a picture tube, and it's not so healthy for the picture tube itself. but it's either that or possibly a very bad picture or no picture at all. And then I'm stuck to finding a new 8DP4 picture tube. Well, new or a replacement, a used one. Okay, well, that's a bit of a bummer, but no problem. Everything can be fixed, I guess, so we'll just have to look for a tube that will do the trick. Okay, so, well, that's it for now. According to the service manual, to release, or rather to be able to split, as it were, the chassis into two parts, making it easier to repair or to maintain, I should release 6 screws. And they refer to a rather unclear picture on the service manual, which I'm willing to show you, just to show you how unclear it really is. Okay, so if you look at this picture here, you see that they mention several screws to be released, you know, 2 on top, then one which looks like it's somewhere on the corner above the TV, then one below. So, you know, and then when you look at the so-called disassembled chassis, it looks even unclear as to how to do it, you know. In any case, I'm going to try to achieve this situation here, and for that I need to release a number of screws, obviously. And if you have a look at the chassis, you'll see at least 3 screws on top, or even 4 if you look a bit closer, that might do what they say it would do. So not only this one here and that one here, but one here, and then, well, 1 or 2 depending on how you want to look at it here. Okay, and that's only on top, so we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. And then there are the rails at the bottom of the TV. Okay, so you have 1, 2, and then exactly the same number on this side, 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do now first is take a few pictures as a reference, and then I'll start unbolting those screws and see well, how far we can take it without having it falling apart completely. Okay, so my guess is that I can certainly remove the back panel here and leave the middle one, or well, the front one, onto the main chassis temporarily. But you see, there are also parts on this part of the chassis, so there will be a moment when I will need to release this part of the panel or of the chassis as well. So let's just start by releasing this part of the chassis. Alright, now while I'm unscrewing the back panel here. I can give you a bit of news concerning the CRT. Now, I had a discussion with a few people, amongst whom Bob of the B. Anderson TV channel, the YouTube channel, and about the CRT in this TV. And he said that when I described to him the symptoms of the CRT, so no emissions, but no shorts either, only filament glow, and also no cutoff. He said that well, it sounded like an open cathode. Yeah, so in effect, you could say a broken conductor, as it were, inside the picture tube. Now, all is not lost. According to Bob, and he showed me, he sent me a video of it. It can be possibly re-welded. Now, you shouldn't take that too literally. It's not like as if I would have to weld two pieces of metal with a torch or something like that. But it would involve high voltage and heating of the filament and etc. It's a bit involved with my CRT tester, and then give a good whack on the neck of the CRT, and then hope that the interaction of heat with high voltage will re-weld, quote unquote, the broken cathode. Will it work? Well, that remains to be seen. Maybe, maybe not. In any case, what have I got to lose? I mean, if I don't, the picture tube is dead and I can't use it anyhow. So, yes, well, I will, at a certain stage, unmount the picture tube and, re-weld it as described in one of Bob's videos. Now, there is another option, of course, which is that I would simply mount, and there you go. Okay, hang on. So, I would simply mount a new CRT in this TV, and I found a reasonably compatible CRT. Not entirely compatible, but close enough, and I might be able to do something with it. But until I receive it, we will all have to wait and see. Okay, so I undid not 6 screws, but 4. So I undid 1 screw here, and then 2 at the bottom, so on this side, and 1 down there, and then I undid this screw here, which bolts the tuner to the front part of the chassis. And it seems like I managed to release the whole thing. So, well, let's see. It should come out. Let me see if I can give you a better view of it. So, here it comes. I have to be extra careful because if I'm not, I might damage the TV, you know. Okay, fortunately for me, RCA, the engineers at RCA were so kind to extend the wiring, to make the wiring a bit longer than necessary, so that I can unhook it. Okay, but hang on. I really have to be careful now, because at this stage damage is quite easily done if I'm not careful. You know, there you go. Okay, this is not ideal, but it gives me access to the CRT, which you see in there, right there, and well, it also gives me access to some parts, you see, which is all rather densely packed, full of capacitors and coils and you name it. It's densely packed. And hang on, I'll show you even an even closer look. But for that, I think I'm going to have to hang on. I wonder if it wouldn't be better to release these rails. Okay, let me release the rails as well, because they are in the way and they could do damage. So okay, so that's one rail. Oh, that's nice. It's copper plated. It's painted black on top, but it's actually copper plated metal. Nice. Okay, now let's release this part here. Oh dear, this is not so easy. Let me see whether I can do it with this. Yes, I can. Okay, then I can do it with a screwdriver as well. I think no, not really. Okay, let's try with this. No. Okay. There's a lot of corrosion. Well, a lot. There's certainly more corrosion than I thought there was. Which seems to indicate that it might have been in a reasonably wet environment, which of course is never a good thing, but I see quite a bit of cadmium corrosion. Ow. Oh dear. Oh God. Yeah, this screw is really tight. Okay. Rather than possibly destroying it, let me turn it the other way. Perhaps that will be easier, and indeed it is. Okay, far better. Right, well, I'm just as curious as you are to see what's inside, and well, what is there inside? Okay, well, this is interesting. I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually jam-packed full of components. Let me take an extra light source. You know, with an extra light source I might be able to show you even more. Oh my god. Yes, well, you remember at the beginning of the series I said that after I had read several blogs on restoring something like this, and of course having taken a good look at the service manual and all that, I had a sort of a feeling this wouldn't be easy. And now that I have a really close look at the chassis, well, my friends, I can tell you this is not going to be a joke. Oh dear, this is really going to be, well, hard. Okay, so what I'm going to do, or what the plan is that I would start by replacing all these paper caps you see inside the TV. I'll take a pointer here. So you know, paper caps like this, for example, or like this one over here. This is also a paper cap. Or inside the TV here, this is a paper cap, and then on top here, right here, this is also a paper cap. So there are plenty of paper caps inside this chassis, on this side of the chassis, but also on that side of the chassis. So this is actually the front of the TV, and you can see there are plenty of paper caps here underneath all this wiring and everything. So oh dear, yes, I can also see an electrolytic down there. Okay, 150 volts working voltage, DC, 60 microfarad. Okay, so that will undoubtedly have to be replaced. Well, there's another electrolytic here. I can't read what value it has. Let me see. Excuse me. It's really full of dirt. 5 microfarad, 450 volts. Okay. Right, and then of course there's the infamous tube. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but you can slightly wiggle the connector. And if you look at the ends of the pins, well, I suppose they look reasonable. You know, if I make a close-up, you could assume that the pins are reasonable. Yeah, the ends of the pins are soldered, and inside these little pins are tiny little wires that come out of the glass neck of the tube and are soldered to the inside of these pins and to the ends, really, of these pins. So, well, it's not really very loose, but I can feel it wiggle a little bit. So what I might end up doing is to carefully unsolder each of these pins and then try to loosen up the end cap of the CRT, and then re-glue it to the neck with fresh glue. But of course that is a story down the road. I'm not quite prepared yet to disassemble the CRT, or rather unmount the CRT. But there will come a moment, of course, that I will have to do it, and well, I will attempt to re-weld it. If I'm not successful, I will probably have to find a replacement tube, which is a kind of a pain. But okay, well, it's a pain, but it's an adventure. Yeah, we do this because we like it. Just like one of the American presidents says, or said, we don't do this because it's easy, we do it because it's hard. Because it's an adventure. Because we can learn something from it, and because also we enjoy it, and it's a kind of adventure. An adventure, granted, that doesn't happen in a desert or anything, but happens right on top of your bench. And I hope I'll be able to show you some cliffhangers as well. You know, some nail-biting moments. Because this chassis looks really pregnant with possibilities for nail-biting moments. Okay, well, I think this is it for the moment. I won't be more lyrical than I am already. I'm excited. I feel a bit worried because it really looks complicated and it's dirty and all that. And there are of course some problems. But hey, like I said, it's an adventure. Okay, so what I'll do by the next episode is I will have cleaned the chassis, the complete chassis, and I think that's not a useless thing to do, because I need to have a very clear view on the situation, and I hate working blindly. So I'll clean the whole chassis with alcohol, and wherever possible with whatchamacallit, ammonia, one of my preferred cleaning products, and then we'll resume from there. So stay tuned.